Hey folks, Mike Dawkins from Worldcast Anglers coming at you with your Jackson Hole fly fishing forecast for the weekend of May 10th and 11th. We've got Mother's Day coming up this weekend. A big thank you and that we love you to all the moms out there in our angling lives. We've got some glorious warm weather at the end of this week and going into this weekend that's going to enable a lot of great fishing opportunities and time to get on the water. But get out and enjoy them now because it's looking into our 10-day forecast. It's back to some snow. It's back to some rain. It's back to some daytime temperatures in the mid-40s and that sort of typical Rocky Mountain spring weather that we all know, but not all of us love. I'll be the first to admit it. Saturday, we're looking at 75 and 49 and partly cloudy. Sunday, it's 66 and 44 with some PM showers there coming in the latter half of the day, and it's going to be pretty windy with gusts up to 30 miles an hour there on Sunday. So get your fishing done early or find some areas there on Sunday where you can get in some, leeward sides of, channels or timber or anything on the river to get out of the wind a little bit. Palisades Reservoir, 68% of capacity. Jackson Lake is creeping up there to almost full, around 93% of capacity. Snow water equivalency in the upper Snake River drainage is still sitting around 88%, but we're losing it, and we're losing it pretty quick, if not at somewhat of a record pace with this heat wave that we've been having this week. So fingers crossed that we continue, refill the bucket and the coffers with some spring precipitation, whether that comes as snow, which would be our first choice, or rain at higher elevations to sort of prolong our runoff period and help that, water and moisture trickle out of our mountains in a very controllable fashion. Unlike last year, we don't need another pass closure or anything along those lines. The South Fork of the Snake right now, we've got 13,100 CFS coming out of Palisades Dam, 12,900 CFS there on the lower river. Water clarity is pretty darn good for the South Fork of the Snake this time of year. We've got a bit of a green tint to it, but, some of the tributary creeks are just getting going and pumping off, some off water and high turbidity, conditioned water into the river system. Nymphing and streamer fishing has been the name of the game there on the South Fork of the Snake, especially with the colder water temperatures we're experiencing. Rubber legs, San Juan worms, beaded tungsten pheasant tails, jig nymphs like the Duracell, the bullet quill, the Spanish bullet, anything like that is going to be productive this time of year. Streamer fishing can also be very good this time of year when conditions present themselves in the correct manner, and definitely when you're covering water in those slower water types. As fish haven't necessarily moved into some of that fast, more turbid water feeding. Definitely concentrate on some of those flats, some of those tail outs, some of those inside bends, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised on the South Fork of the Snake. Top to bottom, like I was saying, clarity is pretty darn good. The Henry's Fork, north of here, we've got 530 CFS coming out of the Box Canyon, 1,530 CFS there on the lower river. If you're a dry fly angler, the Henry's Fork is going to be the place to be here for probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're seeing great Mother's Day caddis hatches. We're seeing great hatches of blue-wing olives, midges, some March browns trickled in there, and it's a bit of that early season, spring season bug bonanza where you're going to see a lot of different choices between those 3 bugs, and you're going to see fish actively keen on all 3 of those bugs. Water temperatures are coming up, and we're definitely going to start to see some of those salmon flies crawling around on the river bottom as we get closer into that prime habitat and water temperatures for the salmon flies to start hatching on the Henry's Fork. As everyone knows in the area, the Henry's Fork is definitely our earliest salmon fly opportunities for fishing. It definitely is a bit more volatile with our chances of inclement spring weather, so you're just going to have to watch and move when you get good water conditions and good weather conditions. Salmon flies don't love snow. They don't love cold rain, which is precedent in our early spring or our spring winter condition or spring conditions. But if we can get some nice, calm, warm days, those salmon flies will definitely be happier flying around, and the fish will notice that too. The Snake and Jackson, those flows have increased coming out of Jackson Lake Dam today to 2,510 CFS. coming out of Jackson Lake Dam, 7,800 CFS on the lower river. The Snake has a very high tributary influence to it, unlike the South Fork of the Snake. So if you see one of those tributaries blown out or off color, like the Buffalo Fork or the Pacific Creek or the Gros Ventre, chances are it's really going to hamper the clarity on the river system below there. The Hoback the past couple weeks has been the most notable producer of off-water, conditions, but I would expect the Snake to sort of be teetering in that zone of blown out and maybe some small fishing windows if it gets cold again and our runoff stalls out, and that's one that you're just going to have to monitor on a day-to-day basis. The river from Jackson Lake Dam to Pacific Creek stays clear pretty much all year long, and that will offer some good fishing opportunities if you are set on fishing the Snake. But at these higher flows, it can be a little bit more challenging. I would throw some streamers up there in the first, quarter to third of the river, especially those discharge lines around Jackson Lake Dam, if you can get in them and get the boat, in somewhat of a productive position to be fishing, those eddies and discharge lines and things of that nature. You'll definitely see some blue-wing olives, some caddis, and some midges too. The water, downstream of there is very slow and very slack, and you may find some dry fly fishing opportunities, but they may be a little bit more technical and challenging, but give it a go. The Teton behind me, we've got 340 CFS up here by Driggs, 1,330 CFS there on the lower river. For the weather that we've been having, the clarity on the Teton is pretty darn good today. It's definitely fishable. I've been seeing hatches of caddis. I saw a couple blue-wing olives here and there. All the boat ramps are open. Floating opportunities from top to bottom are pretty darn good. I would expect Bitch Creek and Badger Creek and some of those larger tributaries to start flowing in with some off-color water conditions here in the next couple days, if not already soon. So maybe that lower river would be a bit more challenging conditions-wise. But the Teton here in the valley looks great for a weekend float, to get on the water and enjoy probably, some pretty good early spring dry fly fishing. I'd fish some small streamers and some deeper water areas and some deeper cut banks and slower water, environments here on the Teton this weekend. We're starting up our dollar fly sale. Everybody's been asking about it, and so here it is. We've got dollar trout flies and 50% off streamers starting up on May 11th. That's going to run until about Memorial Day. So stop in, stock up. This is a big advantage to you guys as locals watching this fly fishing forecast to get ready for the fishing season, to get stocked up and ready to go. So stop in and definitely get ready for your time on the water this upcoming summer season. The fly shop's open Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We've got everything you need. We've got all the new product trickling in for the summer season, so we can get you set up with whatever you want and whatever you need. So definitely stop by, say hello, get your new fishing license, get most up-to-date fishing conditions and reports from all of our guide trips coming back, or our staff members on the water. We're happy to share all of that knowledge. So definitely stop in and say, hey, we look forward to seeing everybody this coming weekend. Enjoy your time on the water, and we'll see you here soon.